And that's really a big issue here is how secretive some of this has gone down. It is an investigation, but this is a response. Basically, Levison has refused to become complicit, in his own words, in crimes against the American people. This is a court order that has come down. It was done in order to gain cooperation with the government to participate in surveillance on its customers. And it's a disturbing issue because on top of that, there appears to be some type of gag order around this. Again, it is an investigation, and therefore he can't discuss any of the government activities that have been going on, nor some of the investigation that's been going on over the last several weeks. So this has been going on for some time. And there's a number of things that may be possible that have already happened. The fact that he shut down the service is very fascinating. And it's also been mentioned that it's possible that the company's servers have already been seized by the government. So, these types of investigations typically come with these types of gag orders, and when we're talking about national security investigations. So, there's a whole, air of secrecy that's kind of happened with a lot of this. Understandably, that they're looking at what they can uncover from these emails, and from the outside, this is what we're getting. We're just going to shut down this whole service. So,
John, if you had to speculate, what kind of information do you think that the government is seeking?
well, I think that it's possible he may be transmitting files. It's possible that who he's communicating with, email addresses, IP addresses that come with that, responses. I think that they're looking at all of this, the information, times, locations that emails were sent from, essentially metadata. All that different information in addition to the actual information of what's being said. It's possible there could be encryption keys, things like that they want to seize, that they might be have some access to, that they would want to crack potentially, and try to find exactly what he may be hiding and things like that.
Lavabit's website now displays a message about the shutdown along with a request for help paying the legal bill to fight the government in court. A portion of the message reads, "I've been forced to make a difficult decision to become complicit in crimes against the American people or walk away from nearly 10 years of hard work by shutting down Lavabit. After significant soul searching, I have decided to suspend operations." So, John, why do you think it's so important to Lavabit's founder to take this stance?
Well, certainly he's standing on that principle, and it's obvious that he's been put into this situation where the very notion of what his business is, this private email, and we're not sharing information, the promises that his company puts out, that's being compromised by this investigation, and this demand for access to information. So how could he run anything at this point unless he makes this move? He's more or less forced to do it, and this is all just on the backs of this. This concept that the government wants a backdoor to everything, that that can be that in their eyes can be abused at any time, with for at this point now, in the future, with no recourse whatsoever. It's interesting. Just last week there was a story about the Tor network, which was compromised. This anonymous browsing service was compromised, and it was tied to some government operations. So there was this large shutdown of a bunch of servers and things like that. So there's a lot of pieces that are we're seeing that there's this kind of a danger here, that the government is looking, and it's indicating that the government's looking at some of these things, looking at some of these services that are designed to protect your email, to encrypt things, and it may be shaded in a way that it appears that they may be assuming that there's a lot of information out there, it's a lot of effort, it's a hard thing to read and decrypt everything. So let's just assume that if it's encrypted or you're protecting something, that it's somewhat more suspicious. It kind of makes some sense, and in a broad way, but it's also a bit disturbing that they may be looking at things like that, just for the fact that you'd like to keep some things private. So a service like that, is certainly a big target for them, and that's part of the issue here. Again, Lavabit, this whole shutdown, I think he was more or less forced to make this move because it's the basis of the entire business.
As you mentioned, John, it's unclear whether the government has already seized the company's servers because Levison says that he's currently under a gag order. So can you just explain to us what that means exactly or what it might entail?
Well, it certainly means that he can't talk. It's an ongoing investigation. It's probable they may have gotten a warrant at this point and therefore seized servers physically, maybe payment information if there was some payments and things like that. This kind of gag order is typical when an investigation is ongoing. And I think that, it's going to cover anything that, has happened in the past as well as, that's ongoing today in terms of, the service and backups and just really the scope of, what they may be trying to seize is it's pretty widespread, and also the nature of what he's been instructed to compromise or share information with the government. I think that that's also something that has fallen under the scope here. Therefore, the gag order, you can't even talk about it because it's on the internet, it's going to spread, and it's just a sensitive issue.
Nick Merrill of the Calyx Institute famously spent 6 years fighting off a similar request and describes Lavabit's proposed bill to fight the government as challenging the constitutionality of warrantless surveillance in federal court. So, John, what do you believe is public opinion on this issue? Do you think Americans are against any type of warrantless surveillance, or does there seem to be a mixed bag of opinions due to the lack of available information on this subject?
Well, I think that there is a varying, degree of people that are informed, on what level they're informed, and I think that base of people is going to have an opinion on both sides. I think by and large, the overwhelming public opinion is this is not something that they want. But then there's that TMZ crowd, right? But this is no joke. It's a real critical issue because in any state, there's a balance between your individual freedoms and security. And, what's happening here is, the state now is looking at, this pretext of terrorism and brought this into the picture and has increased their power to such a degree that, it has compromised these rights and freedoms that individual citizens have. And on this scale, it's very disturbing, and I think that it's an issue that maybe not particular to this individual case, but I think the ramifications of what's happening in terms of should there even be an encrypted email service, and the fact that the government's going after this, and this other company has said, hey, we're done before an investigation has even come down on them. Is a pretty disturbing thing, and I think that when people start to see those things, hopefully the idea is getting out there that their options of keeping their information private is it's gone.
At the close of his letter to Lavabit users, Levison wrote, "I would strongly recommend against anyone trusting their private data to a company with physical ties to the United States." So what does he mean by that? Are there any U.S. companies that don't have those ties? Is it even possible to really heed that warning?
I would guess it would be very, very difficult. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, and it's been the case for a long time. And there's a history of companies that do this type of information, placing this information strategically offshore because of this exact same issue, because of this privacy issue. Google is notorious for some of that, and there's many examples. You should assume that anything you put online or in an email or whatever is going to end up either being public or looked at by the government, and that's just the way things are. That's the state of the union at this point, and there's some big issues there. I would like the transparency to be two-sided. This secret surveillance and gag orders. Snowden has done something here that has really brought a lot of things to light, and something that we should pay attention to. The fact that this is going on, that we're having this debate, it's a good thing. And a lot of people have to ask this question of themselves. You have this expectation and this right, essentially, to have your information to be secure, your affairs, your papers, to be secured from anything that's unwarranted in terms of search and seizure. Um, the fact that you put a wire in between, or a Wi-Fi, or however you want to define it, that this becomes digital at this point. This point doesn't really change that, right? And a lot of people should really start to ask themselves that question: that if you go out, you buy a new car, you park it in your driveway, do you give everybody in the neighborhood a key for them to, just in case something happens to it? No, that's your car. You have the key to it, and you shouldn't have. There shouldn't be any expectations that you have to share that with anybody just in case something bad might happen. So this is kind of the same thing. This is your information, your vehicle. You shouldn't be sharing the keys or access to your vehicle at any time, your information at any time. And it's there's this kind of like this edge of privacy that's being infringed on. And I think that that expectation of having private data at this time is something that is gone, and something that we have to question.
And thank you, John.